A lioness meets her old trainer after a long time. Her reaction is priceless. Lions are one of the most ferocious species in the wild, apart from being known as ruthless predators. Often regarded as the kings of the jungle, the presence of these giant cats is every bit commanding and intimidating. But do wild animals feel love? Do they have emotions? The incredible story of Kiara the lioness unfolded a different shade of their personality that amazed everyone who witnessed the incident. Kiara was just a little newborn cub who was found abandoned and starving in the wilderness in Mexico. As fate would have it, the little cub was rescued by a kind man who brought her to a wildlife shelter. The man, Adolfo, immediately took a liking to the adorable cub, and soon, the little one warmed up to her rescuer. Adolfo decided to name her Kiara after the lioness in the movie The Lion King. In fact, in the Swahili language, Kiara means princess, and in traditional Italian, it means bright. Adolfo felt that the name fit perfectly for the little lioness, who was just learning to walk on all fours and roar softly. Adolfo and Kiara soon formed a great bond as he tended to all her needs. Being an orphaned cub, Kiara needed special care, and Adolfo took her under his wing, just like a father. At the shelter, Kiara was growing up under Adolfo's care. He went out of his way to train her and make sure she was properly fed. Soon, with Adolfo's love and care, Kiara regained her health. Of course, Adolfo was a proud father. But with time, Kiara was growing up into a wild lioness. Soon, she outgrew her little shelter at the sanctuary and needed a bigger space. Adolfo was beginning to realize that the time to say goodbye to his little cub was drawing closer. Finally, it was time for Kiara to leave this shelter for a bigger one. So, Adolfo reached out to the Black Jaguar White Tiger Foundation, where Kiara would receive specialized care as a growing lioness. The goal of this foundation is to take in wild felines and give them their best possible life. The foundation adopted Kiara, and soon, she was moved to her new home where she would get to meet and be with other lions. Adolfo hugged the cub for one last time and shared their photos and videos on social media, with a heartfelt caption. They had formed a unique bond of a human being and a wild animal that is rare and magical. With tears in his eyes, Adolfo bid goodbye to Kiara as he watched her retreating figure. Just like Adolfo, little Kiara also looked back at her father, not wanting to let go of him. He wished the best for Kiara and hoped to be reunited with her someday. At her new home, Kiara made friends and grew up to become a healthy lioness. But as she embraced her natural habitat, would she still remember the man who had once saved her life? Well, everyone would find out a year later. Even at her new home, Kiara would often spend time by herself, as if waiting for her dad to show up. 1 year later, Kiara had turned into a fierce lioness with a commanding presence. Her ferocious roar and sharp claws were enough to keep people at bay. One day, Adolfo decided to visit the Black Jaguar White Tiger Foundation and meet the little cub he had found in the wilderness. But would she recognize him? He kept wondering. Adolfo entered the park and met the other trainers. Needless to say, they cautioned him not to go too close to the lioness, as she was now truly a massive beast. Initially cautious of entering the shelter, Adolfo finally decided to take the leap of faith. After all, she was the same soul who had once showered him with immense love. Trusting his intuition, he called out to her and made his way to her enclosure. As soon as Kiara heard the familiar voice, she turned around and looked at Adolfo. In a matter of a few seconds, the lioness got erratic and began to jump around. Looking at her behavior, the onlookers advised Adolfo not to enter the enclosure. But when Adolfo's eyes met hers, he simply knew he had to go in. All he could see was the little cub who he had grown to love unconditionally. Carefully, he inched closer and kept calling to her. Then, Kiara saw him and let out a roar. As everyone held their breaths, the lioness took no time to lunge at the human. But in a split second, she hugged him and tackled him playfully to the ground. Adolfo laughed and hugged her back, petting her golden fur. Soon enough, Chiara was nuzzling and licking Adolfo affectionately. She just couldn't get enough of him. After a few minutes, she let go of him and moved away, only to run back into his arms. Everyone looked on with tears in their eyes, marveling at the magical bond between the lioness and her adoptive dad. Truly, humans and animals share an indescribable relationship that has existed since the beginning of civilization. The incredible story of Chiara and Adolfo simply goes on to prove that in the end, we are all in need of just one thing: love.